imperative. Young, dumb American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess so lit, I guess so bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's Tuesday!
hanging with the fellas, little sports nonsense and whiskey. Back for the people, giving you our takes. How we doing tonight, fellas? Pinky, Robert, cheers.
Boys.
Cheers, gentlemen. We are christening a glorious gift from my nieces and nephews because they appreciate their uncle for Valentine's. A Stormtrooper whiskey decanter and glass, so I am drinking very in high spirits and just in love. So I feel appreciated by my people.
Nice.
It's nice. It's a good feeling.
That is always nice to be appreciated.
Hey, they asked, like, do you want something for Valentine's? And I'm like, I don't really ask for anything. So, like, if you feel like it, go for it. But I've got the kids something. And then I show up and they got me a coolest gift ever.
Yeah, nice.
That is that is awesome.
And it came with exclusive tin cup from my brother-in-law. So that was super exciting, too. So can't complain about that.
Can't go wrong there, it sounds like.
Nope. It was a good weekend. Captain America, saw it twice. I know we'll get into that, but overall, life is good.
Yeah,
life
buddy.
is a good thing.
All right. Well, Caleb, you just went on a journey.
Yeah, you had a whole family, and you're back in your normal cadence there, sir.
You want a little Caleb story time, Pinky?
Oh, gee, God.
Tell us something, yeah.
Story time. Let's go, homie.
Was on vacation for my sister's wedding, and everything went great. Smooth weekend, no hiccups, no big issues. Wedding was beautiful, great ceremony. Reception was awesome. This cool little history museum. My sister's a history teacher, so it was right up her alley and fit in there. Outdoor venue, and the weather was beautiful, so everything worked out. They wanted to go. They're not doing a honeymoon because she's a teacher, so she didn't want to take time off during the school year in the middle of a semester to do a honeymoon. So they're going to do it when she has time off during the summer. And so they just wanted as many people as were able to or willing to come out with them after and go to Mill Street, downtown Tempe. Now, anybody that knows Tempe knows that that's the epicenter of maybe college.
Let's go.
With ASU there. So Mill Street is the main drag for ASU. It's the main strip where all the bars, restaurants.
Robert, have you been down there?
Clubs, everything are.
No.
Dude, you'd break your neck down there. Let me tell you.
we stayed at a hotel like 2 blocks off of Mill Street for the night so that we didn't have to drive or Uber an hour back to my parents' house or anything like that. And as we're walking around, I start paying more attention to the people that are out and about. And then we get into the first bar and we get some shots, we get a drink, we're all hanging out kind of with the wedding party and people who are there. And then I start looking around a little bit closer and realize outside of the people we're hanging out with, everyone else is literally half our age.
That's how I feel at work every day, Caleb. That's how I feel every day.
I was like, huh. Yep, that's yeah, okay. That's where we're at now. Cause I was like, there's no way you're older than 24. Like that's max right now from everyone in here that I see. This is crazy.
That's all right.
Probably double your age.
That's all right.
We stayed out. We went to this cool dueling piano bar. But unlike the one in Denver where it's like a stage and there's just a bunch of like seats on the floor around it, this one was like a stadium. So you go downstairs. So you're already going underground to get to this bar. And then there's 3 flights within the bar that all go down and have seating within them with bars and chairs and stuff, or tables and chairs and stuff. And then the dueling pianos and the live band are at the very bottom of that. And so it's like they're in a natural concert venue, just on a smaller scale within this bar. So that one was really cool. That one, the crowd was a little bit older. So that was nice. But it was cool. Live music. They're doing some karaoke with the dual pianos and stuff. Stayed out even later than we thought we would. And woke up the next morning to go take care of children. So, but the half my age thing, yeah, it was, that's when I kind of told a couple people, and the next thing I know, everybody's like, we're going to this other bar. And I was like, thank God. I hope this one's slightly more age appropriate.
I like kicking it with people that are way younger than me. Keeps me young.
I can still hang. There were no issues. The first one was like a pool hall. So it was still a cool place, but it was funny. I mean, we were out Saturday after Valentine's Day. So like middle of the semester, Saturday after Valentine's Day, of course the place is going to be jumping and everybody's going to be out. So
let's just take it for what it is, Caleb. We don't like to acknowledge it, but you're old now. It's okay.
I mean, relatively speaking, I'm in the middle of old and young. I don't quite fit into either demographic.
Your midlife crisis is coming soon, bro.
I was about to say, Caleb, it's
not worried about a midlife crisis because I'm always going to be this kid who has to take care of adult responsibilities. Like I accepted that a long time ago. I'm Peter Pan or whatever. I don't care.
I mean, I am the most grown-up child you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do the things I always enjoy, and if that people think is an adult, I don't really
this
care.
was the highlight of my weekend. Was this popcorn bucket? This is the highlight of my weekend.
Nerd.
I'm champ right now.
Yeah.
So champs handle
Dude,
business.
I'm seriously like considering like coming over and just like walking into your house.
Stand on my own too. Just taking care of things around here.
Hey, I will say, remember, I let you into the house. I don't know if you know the codes, but I know the codes, so I know how to get the belt. So Caleb and I can just be on an exchange basis here, which, Caleb, now that I think about this might be a thing.
I need that belt back. I need it.
Might have to change those codes.
I mean, I won't show up with unannounced. I will be like, hey, Caleb, can we make this happen? And then we go from there.
All right. Well, we do have.
I'm just saying.
We do have a special guest coming on tonight. I don't know if I want to keep him in the waiting room too long.
He
might drink too many Coors Lights when he's sitting in the, when he's not actually talking, he's just drinking. So, we better bring our boy.
Greg's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
What up, fellas?
In the house.
Greg.
Cheers.
I actually have a couple beers just for you. I know they're not Coors Light, but I brought a couple beers just for you, Greg.
You went high life on
There you go.
I mean, I'll have to one-up you and go the Heineken route, but that's okay.
It's a fine Pilsner.
Wait, Hang on a second here.
Yeah, that doesn't
In
line
what
up there.
world is Heineken one-upping somebody on a High Life?
I mean, it Coors Light and Miller Lite are caramel water compared to that shit. So let's be real.
See, Robert was young and impressionable at the time that the movie Swordfish came out, and so he thought that was the coolest beer in existence. And
No, more like I went to live in Europe and had good beer experiences, and now I drink the beer here, and
we
I'm
see
just
him
sad
tomorrow,
because it's
just
just
rocking
water.
that sweet Travolta Soul Patch. Just
Although that is a fantastic movie though, and one I haven't seen in a
It is
very
a good
long
movie.
time.
solid.
So
Solid.
that might have to get added into the watch list here pretty soon.
That was that's a great callback from Greg. 'Cause
Halle
yes, that
Berry
is
had
a
her
good
prime.
movie. Oh,
Ooh, Halle Berry. Yeah,
Halle Berry was fine.
fantastic.
Let's see. It's been a little bit since we had you on, Greg. We got to catch up on a few things. Tell me about your Super Bowl experience. How'd you feel? What'd you think?
oh, I mean, I had a wonderful time not watching a single second of any of it because
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I hate the Chiefs and I don't like the Eagles. I was hoping the Eagles would win, but I didn't want to enjoy any part of it, so I didn't watch a single minute. It was fantastic.
Craig was not part of the 183.2 million.
No.
Okay.
I mean, which means he
how
can't
did
say
you
anything.
consume that time then? What were you doing at this moment then?
I think I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for most of it.
Oh yeah,
Dead.
fantastic game. Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
So no regrets.
None whatsoever.
I think probably some
that-
worse things you could have been doing
I
at
don't
that
think
time,
I ever
so
cried so
solid.
much in a game when I got to the end as that one did. That
Oh,
really,
yeah.
that messed me up.
That is on top 10 lists of best games of all time. So
One of my
absolutely.
favorites.
And
I just replay it anytime I want to relax. So
yeah, no, good game. Good game.
Never played it.
You're
I have
missing
not
out,
played
Caleb.
it myself.
That's a-
I just know
that's
it's
a-
really good.
It's better than most games that even come out today, honestly. And that's coming from a religious game player. Like there is no
Right.
experience like Red Dead. If you get the opportunity, set some time aside and get into it because you won't regret it.
So you did say you were hoping the Eagles would win. So that obviously happened,
Mhm.
which is good. Let me ask you. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit. Does this Super Bowl, in any way, shape, or form, tarnish Mahomes' legacy or the Chiefs' dynasty?
I mean, yeah. Thankfully, that's the point of wanting the Eagles to win. Is we can forget about him being in any GOAT conversations or any crap like that. Like, no, I mean, they were a crappy team that it was pure like luck and well-timed ref flags that got them there in the first place. Like they should have been so much worse this whole season. They never should have been even close to the Super Bowl, and I'm glad that they got exposed as being completely inferior to a really well-built football team this year. Like,
They were
that was,
so sad.
that was
on
great.
the sideline. They were.
Oh, that was
crying.
beautiful.
It
I
was
loved it.
wonderful.
I mean, just fantastic.
I loved it.
Love that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
I'm petty as hell. I mean, obviously they crushed my 49ers last year, so I've got some anger towards the Chiefs, and I'm happy to see them sad.
Good.
I
good
love
deal.
that. I love
I
that.
appreciate the honesty. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
there's zero objectivity going on here. I just hate the Chiefs.
Epic.
That's
I love
broken
it.
your heart
I love
multiple
it.
times. I could understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that. I've seen there's been a lot of talk of that since the game. I don't think it tarnishes the Chiefs dynasty, and I don't really think it'll tarnish Mahomes overall. But it is going to, like, he's now been blown out in 2. Tom Brady never blown out in any Super Bowls. He lost 3, but they were one-score
He was
games.
blown out in that Eagles Super Bowl. People
He
don't
was
want to.
not.
Dude, the Eagles took their foot off the gas at
That
the
was
end
a
of that
one
Super
score.
Bowl.
That's a one-score game, and he threw for 500 yards. Are you serious?
It was
Get outta here, bro.
Wasn't it like 38-20 or like 18 or
No.
something, 17 at one
No,
point?
that was a literal one-score game. The Eagles sealed it with Brandon Graham making him fumble, and that sealed the game.
Oh, I do not remember that way. All right, well,
I remember.
I
it was
just
a
want to
back and
clarify
forth.
something real quick, though. Are we really calling 3 Super Bowls in 5 years a dynasty?
5
Ooh.
in 6 years. They went to 5 in 6 years, and the only reason why they didn't go to 6.
Went to? I'm talking about wins. Who cares how many went to? Did the Bills have a dynasty in the 90s?
They did.
No. No one
No.
refers to the 90s as a Bills dynasty.
No. But wait, hang on now. Like, whoa.
Oh man, we
Hang
started
on,
something.
like, let's not start comparing the Bills and the Chiefs because, first of all, one's a dynasty and one's not. Now, you could say you wouldn't classify it as a dynasty yet because they need at least, 1 or 2 more within a decade, if you will, and that's what you want to see, more extended. I'm okay with that. Micro dynasty, I'm good with that too. But the Bills never won one. The Chiefs do have 3 and 5.
I'm not saying they're on the same level. I was making an extreme point to counter Pinky's assertion that appearances are somehow part of a dynasty.
Going to 5 and 6, winning 3 and 5.
Going to
I think
6 straight.
I'd be
7
fine
straight
if
AFC Championship games.
Oh, we're counting AFC championships too.
I mean, that's
listen.
What else is a dynasty if that's not?
They've also been lucky to be in a much weaker divisions.
Absolutely true.
There's just been a lot going on, and hey, you play who's in front of you. You take the shots that you have.
I mean,
not
all
knocking
things
for that,
considered,
but
though, this division has still been better what the Patriots went through for 20 years.
Oh, for sure, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
That's what's crazy. That's how crazy that is.
God, that AFC East was so bad for so long.
Bad.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Anyway.
The other thing I would definitely ask you about: have you seen any good movies lately? You're the movie guy that I really trust, so I like to see if you've seen anything new.
Let's see. What's that?
Fuck you, Pinky.
Robert got offended. He caught that.
I see about as many. I see these same movies as you, asshole, and probably see them more than likely before you do. Fuck you.
I'm like, is Robert listening right now? Did he hear this?
I absolutely heard him. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Okay.
I should just kick you out right now, and we'll just have Greg, Caleb, and I get the hell out of here.
I think the last one that I saw that I've really been recommending to a lot of folks was Late Night with the Devil.
Mm.
It was on, I think it's on Netflix or it's on one of the streamers, but I just threw it on a whim and it was awesome. It's a, scary movie, possession movie, like a little bit of found footage to it, but
yeah,
it took me totally by surprise. I thought it was an awesome movie.
David Dasmalchian, he's been one of my dark horse celebrity guys because he's got a great comic series. He was great in Suicide Squad, and I loved him in this. Possession movies have really been ruined for me since Conjuring really got off, and this was great. Highly recommend with Greg. Fantastic movie if that's something you're into.
Late
just a good
Night with the Devil.
Yes.
Yep. Late Night with the Devil.
Okay. Fantastic.
It's on Hulu and Netflix if I'm not mistaken.
It's on one of them at least. I don't know which one.
I'm pretty sure it's everywhere. If you find it, you'll get there.
Just watch it. Wherever you find it, just watch it.
Yeah, I've been off to a slow start on movies to start the year though. So the only other movie I've seen that was really good that I'd recommend is a kids movie, family movie, Wild Robot. That was really good. So
great movie.
That was amazing.
That was a fantastic movie. Good movie.
Yeah, definitely. I saw. I probably need to watch. I saw 80% of it at Andy's. I just came over and they were watching it, and I was like, okay, I'll sit down and watch. And I was like, damn, this is good. Like that. Yeah. That is a good movie. Even for a kids movie, it was good.
Yep.
Well, I will be interested. I know. Don't watch it. I mean, watch it when it comes out. But Love Hurts, Greg. I think you might like that one.
Oh, the one with dude from Indiana Jones and
Yeah,
Data.
Ki Kwan.
Short round.
Yeah.
I won't watch that until it comes out. I won't pay to go see that.
Yeah, don't. I mean, I've got the movie thing at AMC, so I can see whatever. But
I heard that was one to catch on streaming.
It's very fun
I mean,
and enjoyable.
You're also talking to the person who I've had like 6 free movie tickets, and I went to see Captain America twice this weekend. So like,
that's one I'm gonna wait for Disney Plus on.
I would
like. Nothing about the reviews made me think I needed to go see it in theater.
So my biggest gripe with the movie is that it's 3 years too late. It came after anybody cared about Eternals or even Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then the last 20 minutes was awful.
Okay.
Like it
so it's like most Marvel movies since Endgame.
It unfortunately, Marvel has now gotten to a point where everything you see in the trailer basically is just the entire movie, and it's not enjoyable. So the last 20 minutes you've already seen, and it was really disappointing. And again, this at least somewhat furthered the universe in some way than others did, but no, it's a solid 7.5 out of 10 for me. It was a great sequel to the Hulk that was, again, 2 decades too late. And that's all. That's it. I'll watch it again. It was good for the entertainment factor, but overall, it's not
it's entertaining,
stellar Marvel entry.
It's not in the. I think what we're looking for is that next top 10 Marvel movie. That movie that we're like, wow, that's so amazing. Where would I rank that?
Which doesn't happen until a true X-Men movie, and that's as long as they do it correctly and not.
Well, the introduction for the mutants has been such a slow burn. It's gotten to the point where it's boring.
I do have hope. I'm letting myself get my hopes up for Fantastic Four, though.
That better be so good.
The cast is awesome. The first trailer looks cool.
Sick.
The director nailed WandaVision, so I know he can do like a period specific Marvel adaptation. Really I'm letting myself get a little hopeful. We'll see what happens.
I'm nervous about Galactus being the bad guy. That's what I'm nervous about. Galactus is a very large character, and I feel like that takes time to tell that story. So I'm a little concerned about having Galactus be their
it's
first
not an
bad
origin
guy.
Story for the Fantastic Four, though, right?
Well,
like,
it's not an origin story, but
lives.
don't forget. I mean, we all keep talking about Galactus, but please do not forget Silver Surfer is also being brought into this too, and they've gender swapped it too. So that'll be an interesting take to see what happens.
Who's Silver Surfer?
We talked about this.
It's the chick from Ozarks. It's the chick from Ozarks.
Oh, the chick from Ozarks. Okay.
Which is still comic book correct in an alternate universe, so it all works out. This isn't
right, because this isn't
616, right?
This isn't. Yeah, this isn't Fantastic Four from 616. So,
which I don't understand why. Like that confuses me, just because I didn't grow up with comic books, so I don't quite know all the ins and outs of all those different storylines and whatnot, and all the different universes that have been brought in. But like, why not just do the Fantastic Four in Earth 616 as you're first starting out telling about them? Why are we
that's why so many people are upset about it, is because it hasn't been really discussed yet, because if they had done it in 616, it would have already had a major impact to the Avengers. So they can't do it.
This is multiverse stuff. My feeling is Galactus is going to win. He's going to destroy that universe, and they are going to end up in 616, or they're going to end up in a different universe. That's my thinking. I have no,
My theory is that they'll defeat Galactus, because everyone's expecting Galactus to win and destroy that universe, and then their universe gets destroyed by the incursion from Doctor Strange 2. So tie it all together.
But they're in the 60s in this movie, where
right, but an incursion is just from a different dimension. So
yeah. I don't know. I'm not smart
Yeah,
enough.
see, that's the other thing. Like,
I got you, Greg. It's okay.
I took that dimension as just, it's what it looks like. It looks like the 60s. I didn't take it as it was in the 60s. So I guess that's another thing that's like, is it past in another dimension? Is it current with a dimension that just looks like it's in that era? Like, I don't know. I guess it'll probably all be told in the story, right? Or at least you hope you get.
It'll probably all be told in the second trailer. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay. Good.
Which
we'll know it all by then.
I have made it a point to not watch any trailers after the first one's out, because then
That's what I do
everything's
too anymore.
But
like
Yeah.
I am on this soapbox for the rest of my life because two freaking obsessed people ruined it for everybody else. Like, that is why movie trailers have to reveal so much now, is because two people were so invested in an actress, bought a movie that her role was cut even though she was in the trailer, and then sued the hell out of the freaking entertainment industry and changed the entire structure of trailers.
Wait, what? Who? What? When?
That happened way after they started telling the whole story in trailers, man.
when Avengers Infinity War was coming out, this was at the same time that if I remember correctly, the movie's called Yesterday, where this dude wakes up and he's the only person who remembers who the Beatles are.
right.
Well, in the promotions and the trailers, Ana de Armas was included in this movie. But in the final cut of the movie, her role was cut. Two women were obsessed with her and had gone on an Ana de Armas movie binge. Bought this movie under the pretense from the trailer she was in this. But because she wasn't, they considered it false advertising and sued the hell out of the entertainment industry because of misleading and false advertising. And since then, movie trailers now have to include actual footage from the final cut of the movie for promotional purposes.
So,
Okay, well, two things here. Wait,
hold on.
Two things. At least from somebody who knew nothing about this, and hearing this story for the first time, that stick out to me really big. First of all, goddamn our judicial system. They should have just gotten their money back for the movie, and we should have moved the fuck on. Like, that's ridiculous. Okay?
Yes.
Second off, I don't see how that correlates to telling the whole movie in a trailer when you could just show some B-level footage from the movie that doesn't have anything to do with really telling the story, which would still be actual footage from said final cut, and you wouldn't tell anything. So that is a complete story. That's a money grab by Hollywood to show you all of this main stuff that's going to force you into the theater, and then they don't care if you've seen it once or twice already.
Again, so one of the big arguments for this from a comic book standpoint from Infinity War, because this again was at the same time, is if you go back and watch all of the promotional trailers, the Incredible Hulk is included in this, which we all now know the Hulk was like, I'm not doing shit, and it was all Bruce Banner. So in the final act of Infinity War, when they're showing in the trailers, the Hulk is there going in Wakanda with everybody. That never happens.
So
you have the Hulkbuster.
Correct.
Couple things, real quick.
Again, that's
Robert,
a big, yeah.
Real quick. I'm sorry, but you're completely wrong about all of this. So the lawsuit was brought in 2022. Infinity War came out in 2018, and they've been showing the full plot of movies in trailers for 20 years, man.
Well, no, absolutely. Well, but some of the uncut footage.
So you're wrong on all parts of it.
This is what changed it fully, though, because they were still giving away some quote unquote scenes that never happened.
Right, but now, again,
from that lawsuit, they have to give away actual final.
They don't have to. There's no legal precedent. There's nothing making them.
Drinking a cup of tea.
They just want
standing in the corner of some restaurant as the highlight footage that they're releasing. Look, they don't have to show anything from the main storyline if they don't want to.
Right.
If you're saying it just has to be from the final cut of the movie, you could show.
And that's what they did with Deadpool. That's what they did with Deadpool. Mostly, that's what they did mostly with Deadpool and Wolverine.
It's just a money grab, promoting type of stylistic choice, if you will, that they've chosen to go with, and it's a bad one, but that's what they're doing right now.
Captain America would have probably been a better movie in my mind if the trailer didn't have Red Hulk show up in the trailer. Now I know why they did that, because they're like, it's Captain America, but it's not really Captain America. It's Falcon who's been given the shield, so he's kind of Captain America.
Yeah, but that's the problem, Pinky. What sells what sells more long term? The cash and grab up front with the big fireworks show, or the word of mouth from people passing along expectations and realities and aha surprise moments? That's the thing. If you were willing to go ahead and do word of mouth, you would have more staying power and a bigger revenue at the end, but it would take a little bit longer. And it seems like that's the exact opposite of the culture they're trying to continue to create.
Like for Fantastic Four, like they didn't need to show the shadow of Galactus. Like they didn't need to go there. And again, if you
We've
don't
already
show
shown too much.
that, so and I get what Robert's saying. If you
Is
show
the lawsuit
someone,
basically implied that they have to change the marketing aspect?
yeah, just show what
not
is
through the
actually in the final cut. It's fine. But movie trailers for a long time have been giving away, really big.
No, they absolutely have, but it's now led
pieces.
the studios
Okay.
to have to
Okay.
include things that actually happen instead of falsifying things, and that's the big change.
Here's the real deal, though. That's not Galactus. It's an Imperial Star Cruiser. It's just a funky shadow being
Totally.
cast of the,
Absolutely, Star
the
Wars and
tower and
Marvel
everything.
hitting it up. Which, I mean, let's be
So they
real.
didn't give
The
anything
Marvel
away.
comics of Darth
Okay, it's not
Vader meeting
Galactus.
the Xenomorphs. I'm so down for that if we're going to talk
It'll be
about
good.
crossovers.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Moving along.
Moving along. All right. Well, let's chat some NBA. Well, hockey real quick. Let's talk hockey real quick. And then we'll move to NBA.
We need to talk hockey to then discuss NBA,
Oh,
I feel
man.
like.
That USA's.
Look, if you didn't watch the game, which I didn't, that's okay.
Oh,
You just needed to watch the first 9 seconds. That's it.
3 fights.
Love
USA
it.
went 2 for
Amazing.
3. The Kachuk brothers took care of business. And then Miller, I think was the other guy's name, went to go start something, but was losing drastically in the size differential and lost, but his heart was still there. He still wanted a piece of something. A lot of people think the fight started because the Canadians were booing the national anthem of America. And then it comes out and turns out that the Kachuk brothers had a group chat going basically that said, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. And we're here to F around and find out. And then they did. And it looked great. And they set a tone for that game that said America is no longer getting bullied by Canada like they had for like the last 20-something straight losses. It was ridiculous, something crazy. And they
Who
made
else had a
2-1.
pretty epic fight against Canada?
Yeah.
Their dad.
So
Their dad fought in a USA Canada.
Yeah, their
game as
dad,
well.
their dad many years ago did the same thing. So, the boys were ready to do some work, to say the least, and they did. Set a tone for this whole 4 nations tournament that the NHL put on. It is NHL sponsored, so that's a key difference. It's not international rules or anything like that. If they had done that in an international competition, you're immediately ejected.
This
Fighting
is
not acceptable in those competitions, the Olympics and everything else. So
this
they
is
knew-
in lieu
they
of
knew-
the All-Star game, right?
Yeah, I don't look again. We probably should talk to Cody about this if we were being smart and had him on to give us a little heads up on what this was all about. It's definitely a break within the NHL schedule. So we'll see what happens. But cool event. I will say what it reminds me of a little bit is over within the top leagues of soccer, the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, all of them. They have tournaments within season. Little cups that they have that are just for like
The
their
DFB
league.
Pokal, baby. VfB Stuttgart, let's go!
Copa del Rey, the FA Cup. There's a lot of them. If America is able to at some point globalize some of these sports, hockey, basketball, football, whatever, I think those are things that they would want to integrate into their seasons within their schedules to bring in the other markets, and primarily those soccer football markets where they're used to those kinds of things and those in-season tournaments, those other cups. they mean something to the fan bases. They can get behind them. They support them. It gives them some familiarity within the sport they already love and what that season looks like. The in-season tournament in the NBA, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it. I like it for the idea of what it can become and that idea of that too. So it'll be interesting to see what the NHL does with it going forward. But so far, it's been amazing. The finals on Thursday, USA-Canada rematch, should be a lot of fun.
That should be really good. I hope Cale Makar gets to play. He missed the game. So we'll see if they get to. Let's see.
But it was very evident that everybody playing in this Four Nations Cup cares.
So there is no All-Star game this year. This is in lieu.
Okay.
And there will be an All-Star game next year. But again, they're also letting NHL players play in the 2026 Winter Olympics as well. So what format and what they do for the All-Star game, I don't know, because the Winter Olympics are in February as well, aren't they?
Yeah, usually.
So I don't know how that's gonna work out.
Well, when the Olympics come around, they take like a month and a half off. Their schedule, their season completely changes. So we'll have to see. I don't think the NHL allowed their players to play in the last Olympics.
They did not.
Right? So last I heard, they will be allowing them to play in this Olympics, and they're going back to the big break. So
2026 and 2030, they're both allowing them to play.
Go.
All right. So with the NHL semi All-Star game, that brings us to the NBA, which is why Greg is here. He's our NBA insider, and he does a fantastic job covering the NBA. Tell us about this All-Star game, Greg.
Oh, I didn't watch it.
Very good.
NBA All-Star has been broken for quite a long time, and the NBA continues to move in the opposite direction. So what I can tell you about it is that they changed the format this year to break it up into multiple smaller teams to try to do a tournament with games to 40 points. Turns out NBA players can get to 40 points pretty quickly. In a 3-hour broadcast, someone on Reddit went through and totaled up 42 minutes of actual basketball over the course of 3 hours. The rest of it was advertising, cross-promotion, all this garbage.
That is painful.
Along with Kevin Hart talking over the game where you could hear him through the arena and making fun of things that are happening, which made the players check out even more. Like, the NBA will do anything they can think of to fix All-Star Weekend except focus on celebrating modern basketball. Like, they just are shooting themselves in the foot left and right because they have no idea what their product is and what the fans actually want.
How do you fix it? Fix it?
Yeah, you make it about basketball. Like, you take away all the other bullshit that the players have to do on that day. You up the stakes. So, like, right now, the winning team, every player gets $125,000. Second place team gets $50,000. Third and fourth get $25,000. With the rare exceptions of a guy on a rookie contract, that's nothing to an NBA player. That's a rounding error in most of their contracts these days. Like, the NBA loves to celebrate that, there's like $400 million of economic impact from All-Star Weekend. They spent most of 3 hours, shoveling advertisers down your throat, so they're making money hand over fist. Like, put some real stakes. Give the winning team $1 million and the losing team $250,000 or something like or $25,000. Like, make it to where it's something that those players will actually give a damn about, because why else should they play hard? Like, and if they don't, who cares? It's just fun. It's an exhibition game. Let them run up and down and dunk. Like, it can still be fun. Like, you're really not going to fix the competitive nature unless you either incentivize it substantially with the money part, or you get a new crop of superstars coming into the league who actually care and are competitive assholes. Like, we've all talked to enough that everyone here knows I don't like Kobe at all. Like, I hated Kobe and all that, but like, the guy was a competitive asshole who would refuse to just roll over on anything. Like, he made those games competitive. And even some of the ones he was in were kind of boring and just running up and down. But if something pissed him off and he got competitive about it, that's where you saw the really good games. Obviously, Jordan was the same way. Like, you need superstars who actually care about losing no matter what the stakes are. And most of the current NBA players, most of the stars are not at that level. That is really going to be the biggest thing, is someone eventually will come into the league who does care about it enough. But until that happens, the other thing that the players care about is the dollar signs. Like, make it worth their while. Like, the NBA can afford it.
I know you didn't watch it, but I know you probably heard about it. What are your thoughts about LeBron?
Oh, total dick
for
move.
the All-Star game.
Complete dick move. I mean, he shows up. He doesn't even show up to the picture in the uniform. Like, shows up in street clothes for the photo. Like, the guy, I mean, he's 40 years old. No one's going to care if he says, like, hey, I am banged up. I need this day off. Like, I'm not going to play. Fine. Everyone would understand. Advertisers would be pissed. But again, who gives a shit? That's not who you're trying to actually appease, even though that's where the NBA's whole focus is. If he had ducked out a couple days earlier, you could have gotten someone else who did want to play. And there were multiple guys who were deserving, because the NBA also refuses to expand roster sizes. And, like, he sat out, and then Anthony Edwards did the same thing. But he got less flack, but he actually did it even dirtier. Like, he didn't say anything. He just sat. He was listed as a DNP in the game.
I think Anthony Edwards wants no part of playing in the game because it's not competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have the cachet, if you will, right now to say or do anything about it. Let's call a spade a spade. The reason the game is where it is right now is because of the current generation that are the greats that are phasing out here soon.
Yeah,
LeBron, KD, Steph, and LeBron's the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what anybody who says. I heard Nick Wright talking about he's given more to the All-Star game than anybody in the history just because he's made so many. But he hasn't participated in a meaningful way in any of the games as far as I can remember. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there were a few when Kobe was still around towards the end of Kobe's career where they were still playing a little bit of basketball. But once LeBron became the guy, the game was done. Because he didn't want to do anything that could make him look bad. He didn't want to lose in any of those exhibitions. Mm-hmm. And again, same for what it was. The only reason you don't compete in the slam dunk contest your entire career is because you're scared to lose. I mean, that's it. There are no other reasons. When you talked about it year in and year out, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it next year. Or, man, after watching that, I can see myself being a part of this in the future. Like, you don't say all that stuff and then never do it just because you were banged up or it didn't fit your timeline or you were taking the game itself more seriously, because none of those things are true. But you do have some guys. Look, Victor Wembanyama looked pissed off when that game ended. He wanted no part of a non-competitive game. Seguin just gave up a blatant layup dunk to Tatum, and you could see Wembanyama's face just look angry. And Edwards is a dog. You know that dude, if he's going to be on the court, wants to ball. He wants to play. He wants to go up to see who's the best. By all accounts, Luka's the same way. He'll goof around a little bit, but that's kind of what the game used to be. The first half was kind of the let's goof around. Let's see the white chocolate off the elbow. Let's see some dribbling. Let's see some oops. And then when the second half started, the game got serious. And that was fine because you basically got, for lack of a better way of explaining it, a regular season NBA game just with nothing but superstars playing against each other. Mm-hmm. So we don't need playoff level, finals level intensity. We just need a regular season level intensity. Not a back-to-back night, like a one-night game. Let's go out there and see who's the best for this night, which guys can ball a little better. If you want to make it a little bit of a circus first half, play in the second half, I'd be totally good with that. KD coming out with his comments made it all even worse because he basically blamed the fans for not wanting to watch it like it's our problem. And this is a dude who's notorious for his whole career saying, I just want to hoop. Doesn't look like it when you're given the opportunity. So that's a problem, right? So the money, I would like to think if you throw up $1 million, that's enough for them to take it seriously. I don't know. But it would be nice to get what I'm hoping for is what you said at the end there, Greg, is that new generation that comes in and gives a shit. I think Jokic doesn't like being a part of it because nobody takes it seriously. I think he wants to go out there and truly play an all-star game with the best and see what he can do with his skill set with those players and bounce ideas off of them and see what other opportunities he could have and spacing and vision and things of that nature, creativity, if you will.
He's already said, I'm not made for this game.
Because all it was is oops and dunks, right? Or shooting from 50 feet. Like, he wants no part of that. That's boring as hell to him. He wants to play a game against talent, that chess match kind of. And that's what that second half of the game really used to be about. And it's not anymore, obviously. You said something else, Greg, that I think is absolutely true. Why is it not 15? The roster size minimum should be 15 dudes. Look, I don't care if a guy only plays 5 minutes. If he comes out there and goes hard for 5 and we see something special, that's all we care about, right? Baseball, their all-star game is still awesome, okay? And they'll have 30 dudes on the roster. Some dudes get 1 at bat. Some dudes throw like 3 pitches, and that's it. That's the night. We're done. But you keep seeing talent after talent after talent come in and do that, and that's what makes it exciting and fun. The NBA has no excuse to not do that, and the players, honestly, money or not, have no excuse to not take it seriously. It is for the fans. This is something that if you mean what you say, then you should be putting some effort in, because without them, you don't get a paycheck, which is what you always talk about. So then show up for it. The other thing I really like to see, Greg, and look, ladies doing some things that make sense. Let's get that one-on-one tournament going on Saturday. If you're an all-star, you can be in the one-on-one tournament. The winner of the one-on-one tournament, $1 million. Put your ass on the line. Let's see who can really ball. Don't be scared if you lose. Who cares? You went out there, you tried something, but that was actually some pretty cool shit from the women with that Unrivaled League and doing that one-on-one tourney and seeing who could better the other. Because let's be honest, anybody who played hoops growing up knows that that's like the essence of the game. Me and my buddy are going out to one hoop, and we're going to play one-on-one, first to 11, win by 2, 2-pointers and 1-pointers, right? Like that's the old school way to play ball.
I think you'd have a lot of guys like LeBron just ducking that shit.
But that's fine. That's the point, though. Let them duck it. Let's see who the real dogs are. Let's see who actually cares. Anthony Edwards would be all about that, if you're, in my opinion. Like, could you imagine him not wanting to be a part of that? I can't.
I can, because it would require him to play defense.
Oof, I still think that you put up like $1 million, you get
again,
all-stars in that or something. That would be fun, and you get rid of
skills competition. It would be fun. Yeah. Here's the other thing I'll say:
you have the 3-point, the one-on-one, and the dunk contest. And the dunk contest, we got to get rid of this guys who, if it's not going to be the best dunkers and the high flyers in the actual league and true all-stars, then just get rid of it. Like, Mac McClung did nothing in that dunk contest. No, dude, I'm sorry. Like, it's cool seeing a 6'2" dude jump high, but that doesn't even rank in the top 10 of all-time dunk contests. It's not even close to the top 10 of all-time dunk contests.
I'm not saying it's a great dunk contest. I'm saying his dunks were awesome. Like, he had fantastic dunks that would have been competitive. And
all of them. He's just 6'2". So cool. I saw a 6'8", 6'9" guy go 3 feet higher doing the same dunks. It was more exciting. There was more power. There was more grace. I'm not trying to take away anything from him. He was the best of what entered the contest, but I'm not trying to see B-roll guys. There are professional dunkers who can dunk better than Mac McClung and do incredible things. Make them the dunk contest if this is what we're going to do. Let them come in and show us something that's incredible that you can actually do if you're not going to have the dudes who are jumping as high as the backboard coming down on the rim. So, but the one-on-one, I would really get behind. That could be some exciting basketball.
One other thing I wanted to mention on the expanding rosters, here's what's crazy still. So this year I mentioned they split it up in like the 4-team tournament thing. One of the teams is not even all-stars. It was the Rising Stars guys. Yep. So like first and second year guys, like those guys were part of All-Star Sunday, and you have guys having great seasons sitting at home. Like, I think the NBA does a lot of bad job as far as like celebrating up and coming young talent, but putting those guys in the Rising Stars and refusing to expand the All-Star rosters is just wrong direction.
Yeah, it was bad. It was just everything looked bad. Everything, the optics of the entire weekend looked bad. Wembayama and Chris Paul trying to skirt the rules by not even trying.
Yeah, Chris Paul's such a dick.
Like, he's not wrong. So it was just everything about the weekend was bad. And then for the players to come out and speak the way they did, as if it's the fans' fault for the weekend being what it is just a joke. Like, you couldn't have had a worse PR weekend for the NBA if you tried.
Yeah.
It was really bad. All right. Let's do some questions of Greg for the NBA. Robert, you got a question?
Who's your prediction for MVP this year?
MVP.
Wait. Hang on. Robert, do you mind if
Caleb,
I caveat your question?
No, I'm asking. I am asking Greg. I'm not asking you, Caleb. I'm asking Greg. Greg,
I hope
please
Greg
answer.
caveats it as he explains it, because the way you asked it is so.
No, I'm asking who will be
He
the
asked
NBA.
who's Greg's MVP?
Who is the MVP of the NBA this year? Period.
Well, Pingin, I think what Caleb may be getting at is who my MVP is versus who I think will win MVP are two different things.
Okay, who is your MVP and who do you think will win then?
I think that the MVP winner is going to be SGA of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think the MVP should be Nikola Jokic. But people are tired of voting for him. They want something different, and they've been hell-bent on SGA winning an MVP for like 2 years now.
Hey, and ladies and gentlemen, just so we're clear, like, yeah, you listen to us enough, we're homers sometimes, and we're Nuggets fans. Greg is not a Nuggets fan.
No.
If you are not remembering.
No, he
That's coming
writes
from
for
a
the Sacramento
Kings fan
Kings.
who does
Sacramento
not like the
Kings.
Nuggets. Yeah.
But hey,
So let's just be clear.
he
That
does
is an
root for the Nuggets
unbiased
if the Kings
response.
aren't in it.
I do like the Nuggets, but like just objectively, like what Jokic is doing is incredible. He's on a team that's dealing with a lot more issues than what the Thunder have been through. And the Thunder have had some injuries too. Like losing Chet as much as they have is a big loss.
Yep.
But that's still an extremely well-built, cohesive team with incredible depth.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. Like SGA is having a great season. I have no problem with him being in that conversation. If I had a vote, I'd give it to Jokic, but it's going to be SGA. Like
That's what happened with Embiid. Fatigue, and you scored more points than him.
Yeah.
Like that. Are we seriously going back to this? Well, he scored more points, so he should get. That's the argument we're going back to. It's wild because when you put a stat line up, it's literally the only thing that he has Jokic in. Well, free throw percentage too, but like
here's the thing:
free throw attempts, but like still, like that's if those are the only two things you're beating somebody in statistically, if the Nuggets weren't in the top four, then maybe I could listen to.
They
SGA
are in the top
more.
four. They're the top
I said
three.
if they weren't in the top four, I could listen to SGA more. Right now they're sitting at 3, actually. I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if
but
they
that's
fell
what
out
they're
of the
going to
top
point
four,
to. They're going to say best player on the best team. Like they're running away, even though the West is super competitive. The Thunder are running away with it. Like that's what they're going to point to. Like because the gymnastics will work however they want it to. And
this is what I say to somebody.
And they'll
every
say
time
that
they want to use that argument.
Yeah.
Switch them. Put Jokic on Oklahoma City and put SGA on the Nuggets. And do you think they still have the same records? I would say no. I would say OKC is probably sitting about the same, and the Nuggets are fighting for a play-in. Mm-hmm. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think they'd be sitting at that 8 or 9 spot probably.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you want to talk about most valuable, okay? Is it the best player in the league, what you mean by most valuable? Or is it the best player who's the most valuable to his team and what that means? Like, it's hard to find an argument, as much as I love SGA in his game, to where those words work in SGA's favor, no matter what people are trying to use to play that argument. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of good guys, and it's one of those things where, Jordan probably should have won a whole lot more than he did, and LeBron should have a few more. And
yeah.
So You know, they
It's
like
just
to
how
spread
it
it
works.
around, and
Yeah.
people really don't want Jokic to have 3 in a row. Like, that is the ultimate thing, is because then they're gonna have to recognize him with the birds and the things of that nature of upper echelon. You know, there's people who still don't want anything to do with him being top 20 all-time conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You do 3 in a row with a championship and things of that nature, 4 and 5 year kind of thing. Now you start talking about top 10 all time, not just top 20. Now the conversation has to change for him again, and they don't want to hear it. They already don't like talking about his statistical numbers and things of that nature. So, and I can understand that because there's so much talent in the NBA. It is kind of hard to put a measure on who's the most valuable to their team. But when you gave it to him when he was playing with a Nuggets team who he dragged into the playoffs as a 6 seed, and the numbers he had that year aren't even as good as what he's putting up this year, and this year he's putting up numbers better than any of his MVP years, it's hard to start justifying other people for the award. Just give him his 3rd in a row and then say, you're never getting it again. Like, just do it. Just do it. Be done with it.
So-
Otherwise, you're going to have this conversation probably for the next 4 years. If he wants to play that long, I think he'd be playing at this level for the next 4 because he takes care of his body enough to play the game he plays. He's not doing anything that's going to be this crazy wear and tear and beat his body down and have all these injuries. So he's got the ability to keep doing this to people for a while. So just be done with it. End the story. Give him his 3rd in a row. We won't ever have to talk about it again. Nuggets fans, no Jokic fans won't ever say another word.
It'd be 2 in a row.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean. Like this, a lot of people already think like
I don't count the
was a
Embiid
joke
one,
kind of
so,
thing. So
whatever.
just give it to him, and we'll call it 3 and be good. Like,
Greg, would you say this is a 2-horse race for the MVP? It's just SGA and Joker.
I mean, I don't think Giannis has done enough this year. I mean, the Bucks have struggled, and he's really the only other guy that would be in that conversation. So I think it's just those two.
You know who I could see as a dark horse sneaking in, Greg, and tell me what you think about this. And it would have to be like a lot of things kind of going wrong for Oklahoma City to where they fall off the second half and end up in like the 3 seed or something somehow. And Jokic and the Nuggets kind of staying maybe right where they are. And this team going on another 20-game win streak, which is Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs. I think he is the leader of that team, the true alpha. And if they win, again, dark horse, I'm not saying he's in the conversation per se right now, but if they went on a crazy run again and there was something that happened out west crazy, I could see him being the guy that could catapult up. Because I don't see any other names that Tatum, Brown, they're not going to, do anything that's going to put themselves out there. And Giannis maybe would have been the only other one, but like you said, he's not really doing a whole lot as far as moments, if you will. Numbers are always solid. It's Giannis, but
yeah, I don't see Donovan being anywhere near the conversation. I mean, his numbers just aren't there because the Cavs are too well-rounded a team. It's not a knock on him, but it's just individual performance. What he's doing is not there. Like, if there was some like freak injuries, knock on wood, we don't want to see it, but injuries that took Jokic and SGA both out of the running because of the 65-game rule, right? Like, let's say they're both out of the picture. Then you're looking at, I'm just looking at the list here, like Giannis or Tatum are probably the top 2 candidates, and you can say what you want. Like, the Celtics are still really great, and Tatum is a very big part of that. I think Jaylen Brown's had kind of a worse year, so like Tatum maybe has more separation. I think voters would love an opportunity to give it to Tatum because like he's on the Celtics and good player. He's just never quite good enough to really be in the conversation. So yeah, I think Mitchell's quite a ways out of it, unfortunately. But
talking about the Cavs, are they the best team in the NBA?
no, the Thunder are. Like, the Cavs are awesome. They're a really good team, really, really strong. They're probably still not even the best team in the East. Like, just realistically, it's still Boston, even with the record. Like, they're 5.5 games ahead of Boston right now, and Boston would still be the favorite in the series if it started today. Like, Boston at full strength, if they're locked in, is just on another level. And I don't think the Cavs are there. They're really good. They're really deep. They're really well constructed, but I don't know. I mean, I liked what they did at the trade deadline.
That DeAndre Hunter pickup and swapping
DeAndre
him out
Hunter,
for that was a nice little for
it's a
Karis
really
LeVert
good
swapping
move.
that out. That was a sneaky little good pickup.
Really good move. I don't know that it's enough. And really, it comes down to both the Celtics and the Cavs are both really deep, well-constructed teams. And so at the end of the day, in a series, it normally comes down to who has the best player or the best one or two players. And I think like
Bless
the top,
you, Robert.
I think like the top three guys
Thank you.
on Boston are still better than the top three guys on Cleveland.
What would you say? Because I feel like that series, as I don't know if it sounds crazy per se, but maybe not some most people would think about. Porzingis' health, I think, would be the key factor. I think if he doesn't play, I would give an edge to Cleveland in that series if he wasn't going, just because of what they lose in the starting five from him that they then have to fill in from that bench. It then takes away from that depth. And then they don't necessarily have the matchup to go with the Jarrett Allens and the Mobleys down low on the same level. And I'm not saying it would be a huge swing for Cleveland by any means. I think it would just tip the scales in their favor a little bit.
Sure. I mean, when I talk
And
about
him being out
who'd
last year in the playoffs, I think makes that a scary, realistic possibility for Boston still that they have to deal with.
Sure, there's definitely the injury risk with Porzingis. That's a big factor because if he's not there, it changes Boston a lot, and it is a real concern. But at the same time, I'm still assuming health right now. Like there's nothing
Of
going
course,
on where we
always
know
do.
he's out.
Always do. I was just saying, like you said, that series, they're almost identical teams. Like Cavs were specifically built to go against and beat Boston in a very similar, identical way. They just don't quite have the same experience, talent level, maybe across the board, like you're saying, from top to bottom that Boston has. And so when I'm looking at it, I go, well, where do you see Cleveland being able to tip that scale? I don't being able to see the win the series unless there's a major situation like that happening. It's just unfortunate that a Porzingis injury it's almost a coin flip, especially as you get into that part of the season, just based on his past.
Sure.
And that's I think the only thing Boston has to worry about right now, as I see going into the second half of the season. Denver could get right and give them a run possibly, but they would have to be playing on all cylinders perfectly with Russ, a key component, not turning the ball over and everything that's been going so great lately. SGA and OKC could easily beat them, but they still don't quite have the same experience level. And you get to the finals, those things have proven to matter.
Yeah.
Cleveland, we could see maybe, but that would be an upset still. So Boston, like you said, they're the favorite. And to me, the only thing I see that they should be worried about is if they have an injury to one of those starting five, specifically a Porzingis or Brown Tatum. Any of those three win, they could have a lot of issues. As much as I love Holiday, I think the depth they have and the way the guys still play defense on the perimeter with Tatum and Brown, Pritchard can come in and do some of that, and White, obviously. They could make up for a loss of Holiday way easier than anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, their guard and wing depth is a lot better than their big depth. I mean, Horford is a really nice luxury as big depth, but outside of him, they don't have a lot of bigs. It's Porzingis, Horford, not a whole lot beyond that. As much as I love Neemias Queta, not someone you want to rely on for rotation minutes in the playoffs.
Who was the big fella they had a while ago? I'm trying to blank on his name. That looked like he was going to be something, but then just injuries. Knees went out, like number 55, like a Williams or something like that.
Robert Williams. He's with Portland now. Yeah, Time Lord.
Yeah, man. That just, again, another big who just can't stay on the court and enough to truly see his talent develop in a way that matters. It feels like. Am I off on that one? You think, or
no? I mean, when he plays, he's fantastic, but he's going to play 50% or less of his games every year, and so I mean, fantastic player when he's healthy. But
tough, man. You get that size and that, especially the way the game's played now, at the pace it's played and the amount of movement you are forced to do, it's going to wear on anybody's body, specifically that kind of size of body.
Yeah. What other NBA questions you guys got?
I got tons. Who's the worst team in the NBA? Without a doubt.
Ooh.
The Sacramento Kings. No.
Damn.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
No, but that happened. That just occurred, and it's recorded.
No, in actuality, right now it's the Washington Wizards. But if we're talking about like ownership groups and all that, the Kings will give them a run for their money. No, the Wizards right now are truly dreadful. It's pretty bad. Like,
well, is there any hope for the Washington
Wizards? Yeah, I mean it's capture the flag right now. I mean that's what everyone's going for. You tear down and
Let's be honest. The NBA is not going to let the lottery hit for the Washington Wizards to get Cooper Flag. That's not going to happen.
That's the whole thing, is that with the modern lottery odds flattened the way they are, like being the worst team is not the lottery advantage it used to be. You really just need to be kind of bottom 5. If you're bottom 5, your odds are pretty solid. Like, I mean, the Wizards though are really. I mean, they had a strategy. They just executed it poorly over the last couple of years. I mean, they were trying to take on like expensive guys, like Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole, and try to get assets and then kind of rehabilitate their value, kind of following the model that the Oklahoma City Thunder did with a lot of guys. The Wizards just did it poorly, and those guys drove their value even lower. And like they are like giving away picks to get off these guys now.
They also didn't project out when to acquire and have those picks and what years to have them. So like last year having the high pick and grabbing Sarr when they did, like in a draft that you probably just would rather just not even been in to begin with, right? Like, I mean,
here's what I will say. The Wizards do have, I'm just kind of glancing at the roster here. Like, they have some good young guys I like, but no one that is build a team around. Like, it's young guys who could be like a good role player or a good like third good player on a good team. Like, maybe someday. Like, it's a rough roster right now. They are.
How far behind them do you think the Bulls, the Nets?
I mean, the Nets are miles ahead. I mean, just in terms of both current talent, assets, competent management, like the Nets are going to be major players this summer, not for free agents, but they have cleared their books and they are going to take on other teams' bad money for a price. And
I agree.
They're going to clean up.
Started to position themselves well, but it's still a team people think of as being in a bad spot. So they're kind of sitting in an OKC right before they acquired everything position. Can they do it well? Kind of like you said, Washington just failed at. Can the Nets do it well?
So I believe in them for two reasons. So one is they've got a good coach. They hired Jordi Fernandez away from the Kings. He was an assistant there. He's an awesome coach, and he has those guys playing their ass off. They've got a lot of young talent already that are good supporting pieces, and they play hard, and they're not a good team. They lose a lot of games, but they're fun to watch still.
Yep.
Like, they're competitive, interesting games. Like, Washington Wizards games are painful. They are painful to watch.
Yeah.
Nets games are not. They're competitive. They lose in the last couple of minutes. It's fantastic. This is exactly what you want if you're a bad team. They've also still got like good trade chips. I mean, they've got Cameron Johnson still to move. Like, they held on to him because they weren't going to take a bad deal because they've got competent ownership and leadership and not so much ownership, management, I should say.
Yeah.
So they're in a good position. They aren't relying on winning the lottery this year. Like, the Wizards, pretty much, if they don't win the lottery this year, it's like, all right, we got another year being just god awful. Like, I mean, the Nets have like multiple avenues, multiple paths, so they're in good shape. The Bulls. I mean, the Bulls are right where you never want to be. They are perpetually just good enough to never have a great draft pick and just bad enough to never be a real threat to actually advance in the playoffs. And they keep doubling down and giving big money to shitty guys, and like their roster's a mess. Their ownership sucks. Their owner is just god awful. Their management sucks. Like every team in the NBA calls the Bulls first to throw their shitty. It's that guy in your fantasy league who you're like, all right, I'm gonna pitch this to him, and I'm not gonna let him know I'm joking because he might go for it.
He might click yes.
And then, like, if he says no, like, all right, maybe then I'll sweeten the pot to what I was gonna shop to other teams. But like, you always start like the first call in the league is always the Bulls.
Right.
Like every team calls the Bulls first to see if they'll take their crap. Like they have given away like so many good players and gotten absolutely nothing of value in return. It's pretty impressive. So the Bulls are a better team in many ways than like the Wizards and the Nets right now, but I would not want to like if I was a Nets fan, I would not want to trade places with the Bulls by any stretch of the imagination.
Could you imagine if Jordan's injury had done to him what Rose's injury did to him in his career? What Chicago would be as a franchise? Because I think most people forget Jordan missed the entire second year of his career because of a foot injury, ankle injury.
Foot or ankle, someone there.
So, but missed the entire season.
More or less, yeah. But some of that was because the Bulls shut him down. He was
right.
pissed. He
no
wanted to
doubt.
come
But
back,
still, they're like, look, there's no reason to come back. It was like 23 games left or something. He said he was ready to go. They said
they tanked it basically.
Yeah, there's no point in this. You're out. You're done. Just stay out the season. But you know, that next year though was still a question mark. That was still a time, especially back then, you know, you're talking 84, 85, where guys may not come back from, you know, broken limbs or torn tendons or things of that nature the same. It was always kind of a question mark. And obviously we know how that ended for Jordan, but you look at Rose and what that injury did to his knee and his game and his electric ability, completely took it away. So those are just things that you see happen to organizations and players. And the Celtics with Len Bias and who's the other guy I'm drawing a blank on, that they lost out on that could have been replacing Bird and McHale and all those guys in the late 80s, early 90s. And the Celtics, maybe you don't see the Bulls win that first three-peat because the Celtics are still insanely good. There's people who say Len Bias would have been Michael Jordan. You know, like the talent level was that insanely good, and we never got to see it. So there's just so many of those things that I think, you know, if you ever sit down and kind of go back and look at some of those what ifs and the dominoes that fell because of some of these scenarios for each franchise, it's pretty wild. And OKC is kind of almost sitting on the precipice of one of those stories with the way they were able to move Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and some of these pieces to then acquire what they have now. And I say all that, Greg, to ask you this. Going forward, because they still have a ton of assets, even if they don't win this year, how long and wide do you think this window is for OKC to still create a dynasty because of what they've built and where those dominoes have been able to fall for them?
It's about to get trickier just because some of the big extensions for their core pieces are starting to kick in, which makes it more challenging, especially in the modern NBA salary cap with the aprons and the penalties and the limits that it puts in place. But to your point, they still have a lot of options. They've got their core pieces locked in place. They've got very, very tradable pieces. I mean, beyond just their start. So they've got a guy like Lou Dort is making like 17, 18 million a year. It's a really nice contract size to move for another another player, along with some of those draft picks, because they have a huge war chest at this point.
Yeah.
Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, The guy makes $28.5 million, and he's their backup big, and he solves a big need for them right now. But if you have an opportunity to go get a big star and you need some salary matching, that's a great piece to use. That's
Sure.
a big salary for a useful player. It's probably not worth that much, but they had the financial flexibility to overpay, and now they can use him to match and get someone better. So they have ways to move, and they have so many draft picks. They've also got just a bunch of young guys who are still up and coming, still coming into their own, who can backfill if they need to jettison someone for salary cap reasons. So a good one, Nikola Topic. Dude was projected to maybe being the conversation as the number 1 pick this past draft. Granted, weak draft and all that, but he very likely could have been the number 1 pick. Big point guard, 19 years old, European guy. But he got hurt before the draft. And so he fell to the Thunder of all places, and they just scooped him up like, hey, we don't need you this year. We'll let you get healthy, and if you turn into something fantastic. Like they just keep stockpiling assets, both picks and players. And they've got guys that if they need to make a trade, they've got playable guys that have value, and they have tons of ways to replace them all. So it's just an annoyingly well-run team.
Presti's incredible, just absolutely. He's the
like
Howie Roseman of the NBA. Makes
Uh-huh.
everybody else look like they're playing checkers and not chess. You know what I mean?
Robert, you had another question for Greg.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you, Greg. What are your thoughts on the Luka and Fox trade?
Well, sadly, those are two separate things. Because
They are, but
I would have really liked it if it was Fox for Luka trade. That would have been really good for me as a Kings fan. But instead, it was two separate trades that broke my heart in different ways. So Luka going to the Lakers is just confirmation that there is no justice in this world, and that the NBA as a whole is going to never be fun for me.
Doesn't that smell like collusion? Like the NBA,
It's not collusion; it's incompetence.
shit!
The Mavericks GM is just god awful. Like,
I mean,
just
to me, I'd like to say I'm a little bit better fan than casual, but not by much.
Sure.
When I see that trade, I'm just like, wait, you traded him for Davis and a bag of peanuts at a time when the NBA's viewership is down, and you're basically, they're trying to make LA hot, right? That's what they're trying to do. LeBron's almost done there. Let's make LA hot. Let's get, one could argue one of the best players in the league in LA. I don't know what the Mavericks are going to get from the NBA in return for that deal. Like, maybe they're going to suck and get the number 1 pick in a year or two. Like, the lottery happens and magically the Mavericks get the number 1 pick. I don't know. But something about that trade just does not make sense, like, at all. Like Robert being the nerd, he sent us in our chat. He sent it like right away. NBA 2K would not even allow that trade.
And and there's so much math that goes into that game. And so, like, I love math to a point, but when it comes to video games, it's all ones and zeros. And if ones and zeros can't fucking make that shit happen, there's a problem. A big problem. And how do you fix that? Because now you've essentially broken a game that is not only licensed by your company, but it's out there for the entire world to simulate. And some people who make their livelihoods off of this, not to mention. And
Greg,
you can't do it.
The thing is it doesn't matter because it's going to simulate and update that shit at 12:01 a.m. the next day anyways.
I mean, if we're going to talk about that.
You gotta pay $10 for the patch, though.
Yeah, no. Ooh. I mean, shoot. The amount of broke I had to put in the Saquon Barkley reverse hurdle, like, come on.
Look, but one thing that came to mind, the NBA vetoed the Chris Paul trade.
But not
and
the
this
Luka
seems
trade.
worse.
Different
There
scenario.
were extenuating circumstances that you can't compare the two due to the fact that the league owned the Hornets at the time, technically, and then them making a trade. There's a lot that went into that David Stern not necessarily vetoing the trade because it was good or bad, more so out of principle that the league shouldn't be doing business on the league's behalf for the kind of. So I've heard people try to compare the two, but I it's one I can't listen to because they're just not.
This trade is worse than that one, though.
Right, but the circumstances are different. The NBA vetoed the Chris Paul trade as the owner of the team, not as the league, because the league had taken over ownership of the Hornets at that time. And from a league interest perspective, they were actively trying to find a buyer for the Hornets, and that trade would have decimated the value that the league could have gotten for that franchise. Now, I love a good conspiracy theory to explain away Lakers exceptionalism as much as the next guy. So here's mine. If you want to think about how this benefits Mavs owners,
yes, I hope you're going where I was going to say, ask you about. Do it.
It's that where do you make the most money as an NBA owner?
TV.
Nope. That's a big part of it.
Do they profit share?
Franchise valuations, which go up as the value of the league as a whole goes up. You just signed this massive new TV deal, but that money's locked in. That's not going anywhere. You didn't have to do anything to validate that. But you do want to continue to generate ad revenue, jersey sales, all these things for the league as a whole, because that's the rising tide that lifts all boats and increases franchise valuations. And what do we know rich people do? They don't actually have to sell their team. They use that franchise valuation as collateral and get all their equity that way, and on and on and on, right? So you've got your franchise that you've bought, and how do you continue to raise the value of the league, continue to raise the value of all franchises as an extension of that? You increase the popularity and the profile. How do you do that? You get one of the biggest stars in the league to a marquee franchise. Like, that's the long game. Because short term, the value of the Mavericks is lower now, but the value of the league as a whole is higher now. And through trickle down NBA economics, because there's only 30 teams and people always want to buy in, franchises continue to go up in value. They go up by the billions now. So that is the single biggest way that NBA owners increase their wealth, is by increasing the value of the franchises as a whole, which go up with the value of the league.
Isn't the Mavs owned by like a private equity group now, though?
Yeah, hang on.
No,
before you answer that, Greg, hang on.
I know where you're going. I know your theory.
Let's go into my favorite
I know yours.
conspiracy theory with all of this. That's the one I was going to ask you about. But this is the one I want to talk about.
You want to talk about Vegas, huh?
Not well, yes, it's part of the whole conspiracy, right? What do they own? Man. Where did they make their money from?
Casinos.
Yes, they did. What are they trying to establish in the greater Dallas area that by all accounts is not going in their favor at this current moment?
Casinos.
High-end resorts in Dallas, bringing Vegas south, if you will, and starting it. And if the Mavs are not doing well, and it's a blight on the community, and it might force certain politicians to then change votes in certain ways for favors later down the road to keep the Mavs in Dallas and allow the casinos to be built, or what would they do? NBA wants to expand. Hey, guess where we're from? You let OKC do it. We're going to move to Vegas, and you can bring somebody new to plant in Dallas. So instead of a brand new owner and a brand new franchise in Vegas and Seattle, most likely, I think that's what everybody would assume at this point, you get the Dallas Mavericks becoming the Vegas Mavericks and establishing a new franchise in Dallas, because they would already be established owners. They come with a lot of money and cachet within that ownership group of 30 people. They could probably have pull to make that possible because of what the NBA allowed OKC to do. It starts throwing all these other conspiracies in there that just shows you how bad the trade was. That these things aren't just conspiracies, they're being openly talked about as legitimate possibilities. Like, that's bad.
So one thing I will say, that I come into this with a unique perspective as a fan of a team that missed out on having Luka Doncic because of an incompetent GM, which then spawned a bunch of conspiracy theories around the actual reasons why. And over time, it proved out, no, the GM was just that dumb, and he still believes it to this day. Like, so, like, while I enjoy all the conspiracy theories, because I do think that there's a lot of shady shit in the NBA, overall, I think at the end of the day, this really just boils down to Nico Harrison is a completely incompetent GM.
And an owner who's just an idiot now in Dumont, who truly believes Luka wasn't worth the Supermax because he saw him drinking a beer and slightly overweight. Like, yo, he's going 30, 10, and 10 basically in an NBA game. I'm good if he's 30 pounds overweight and he's playing 65 plus games a year. He just took me to the finals, bro. This isn't Zion Williamson we're talking about. Like, what are we doing?
Nick Wright made a really good point the other day. He's like, let's say you're right, and his conditioning's horrible, and his work ethic isn't where it should be. All that means is that he's even better than you think he is. Like, he's still this good.
Yes, that's the point. That's the whole point.
Like, he's 25.
And you let him go.
Whomst among us was not overweight from drinking at 25? I mean, come on. Well, yeah, I mean, you're a twin.
Jokic seemed to do all right. Like, they were talking about Jokic is overweight and wasn't going to be around, and that seemed to work out okay.
I drink a lot, and I don't see.
They're buddies, right? I think maybe there would have been something around to get. Yeah, bad idea.
My only hope, and it's a slim hope. My only hope is that Luka hates LA and leaves as a free agent and comes and joins the Nuggets, because that'd just be fun for anyone who enjoys basketball.
And I talked about this not even as a conspiracy theory. I think LA would be foolish to think that's not a possibility at this point. And they should be very serious about that being on the table for him to make sure it doesn't happen.
If they're not a contender in the next 2 years, he will consider.
Bundle this, I said it before, Greg. You tell me what you think. LA isn't a marquee destination like it used to be. Athletes aren't lining up to go play in LA simply because they like to keep more of their money these days. And they see the ability to global market and things of that nature outside of California. And I don't think they necessarily like that front office and ownership group anymore the way they did when Dr. Buss was running things. So I'm not saying they're going to pick, Orlando or the Atlanta Hawks over LA. But to say they wouldn't want to stay in Dallas or San Antonio with Wemby, or maybe even a Denver with Jokic if things were put together a little better. I'm all of that before I'd have been like, you're out of your mind if you think LA doesn't win that competition, if those are the names involved. I wouldn't say that now.
I'm going to disagree as much as I hate to, because I agree. It is easier to market yourself anywhere, and you can become well-known anywhere. But the fact of the matter is, you are going to maximize your marketability being on one of the teams that ESPN is hell-bent on putting on TV 30 times a year, no matter how good or bad they are.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong.
And
that's true.
Like, every TNT game, every ESPN game, every SportsCenter lead, like, it all gets shoved down our throats. Lakers. And honestly, it's probably kept Luka from serious MVP consideration up to this point when he should have been a better candidate. Even in Dallas. I mean, Dallas is not a small market, but it's a small market in the NBA media landscape. And it's probably hurt his career overall. Being in Denver definitely has not helped Jokic. I mean,
he's had to earn all his pub. He's had to earn it.
Yeah, they, like you said, they don't want to celebrate him. because of a variety of factors, but one of them being where he plays. It's not one of their major markets. And I mean, hell, half of us in Colorado can't watch Nuggets games. Like,
Oh nope.
so I know it's getting. I know they're fixing it, but still, like
2.5 weeks ago, I now have altitude back on Xfinity.
Oh, fantastic! Like, great! Like 6 years into Jokic's prime. Like,
yeah, awful.
I mean, like, so
absolutely
market
terrible
does
that I had to
still
wait
matter.
that long, but I still
Market
have
does
it now.
still matter. But yeah, I do think that the market does still matter at the end of the day. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't, and it is better than it used to be, but it does still matter. If you're playing for the Knicks, if you're playing for the Lakers, you are going to be a higher profile, no ifs, ands, or buts.
So,
Heat
Greg,
or another one.
let's
Yeah.
Let's break your heart and talk about this Fox deal.
Let's do it. What is dead may never die, and I'm a Kings fan. You can't hurt me. So
I mean, you're used to
All
disappointment.
right. That was some good references. I give you credit for all of that.
So the Fox trade sucked. It was terrible management of the team, terrible ownership of the team. The way they handled it was crap. The Kings did make some decent moves following that. I liked their deadline outside of the Fox trade, but those are the moves that if they had ever done those moves when they still had Fox, they might have kept De'Aaron Fox, because that's all he ever wanted was improve the supporting cast. Like, they basically sat with their thumbs up their asses ever since the Sabonis trade, and then they wonder why Fox isn't happy anymore. So it was very frustrating. I have very little faith in the current direction of the Kings as an organization.
I feel bad for Sabonis.
He'll be the next one out. Like, I don't feel terrible because I don't know. Like, there's stuff there as well. Like, as far as his kind of role in the whole thing over the last couple of years, but yeah, it's a shitty situation. Sabonis definitely deserves better. Like, he is such an incredible player, and you want to talk about a guy whose market is holding back his accolades. Like, that's a guy who should have been an all-star. Should be much higher in the conversation, but he spent his whole career in Oklahoma City, Indiana, and now Sacramento. Like, that's kind of case in point of how great players can be held back by small markets. So,
or inept front offices.
So
that too, yeah.
By not giving them the opportunity to play on the biggest stage, right? Yeah. What about the flip side, though? That young core now that you see in a trio, in my opinion, with Fox at the lead, being the oldest guy at least, and then Wemby and what Castle's starting to look like. Boy, that could be something fun to build around and could lure some nice veteran pieces to build around it over the next couple of years in free agency, because they got a lot of pieces too that they can play with.
And they've already got veteran pieces. They've got Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul. And I mean, here's the thing. The Spurs added De'Aaron Fox and did not give up anyone out of their top 8.
No.
They did not give up any of their best draft assets.
Right.
They still own the Hawks 2025 first round pick unprotected, and the Hawks are like selling pieces at the deadline. Like, you want to talk about conspiracy theory? We're gonna like direct Cooper Flag somewhere.
I said it, Cooper Flag.
Like, Cooper Flag to Spurs.
They're not gonna. Maybe.
Pinky hated it when I threw that idea out there, Greg. He hated it, but I said, watch it happen. Watch
Absolutely.
Tim Duncan, David Robinson 2.0 in San Antonio.
Wemby, Fox, and Flag with Castle and Sohan and Vassell and all the other guys the Kings didn't manage to extract in the trade. The Spurs kept the Kings 2031 draft swap. So if the Kings suck in 2031 and the Spurs are title contenders, like, we should get the better pick.
But they gave Chicago back their pick, right? At least they hooked up Chicago with their pick back. The Kings are like, hey, they're giving us Zach LaVine. So if you could just give them their pick back, I think everybody would be happy here. I think
the Kings did get an unprotected pick from the Spurs, but not this year when they're like maybe a lottery team. No, they got in 2027 when they're going to be
a playoff team
in Wemby's prime. Like, God, damn, I hate the Kings. There was like a list. There was like a list of like assets that I would have wanted in a Fox trade with San Antonio, because like we all kind of knew that was the destination where it was coming. And it's like, okay, so like I want Stephen Castle, I want the Hawks pick, I want our pick swap back. Like that's the foundation. Like that'd be a great return. And I may not get all three, but I need at least one or two of those plus some other good stuff. None of it.
Dude, I'm looking at San Antonio and Buford, and I'm saying, did you see what Danny Ainge got for Gobert? Yeah, I'm going to need something comparable because look what I'm giving you.
Yeah.
Last one I want to ask you about, because I know you said they excuse me. When we talked to you before the season started, you were talking about them probably not even being in the playoffs. They make a big move to upgrade the roster. How much it will upgrade it is going to be a question mark as the season ends here. Excuse me. But Golden State with Jimmy Butler and acquiring him, what do you think that does for the rest of their season?
Yeah. So I think following the deadline. So right now, as it stands, the Kings are 9, the Warriors are 10, Suns are 11, Spurs are 12. Like it's all still pretty bunched. The Mavericks are just ahead of 8. I think the Mavs and Kings are falling. Like I don't see either of them holding their spot. Like they're going to continue to fall off. The Warriors are going to be firmly in the playoffs. Like I didn't love the trade like on the deadline day when it happened. I was like, man, they're giving them that extension. They're giving up all their depth, this and that. But then I looked at it and was like, man, the depth pieces they gave up, they really only gave up like 2 guys that they were playing. I mean, Wiggins is the big one, but Jimmy's, especially a re-engaged Jimmy, is better than Wiggins.
Right, you're just basically the way I saw it, you're basically just swapping those 2 out.
I mean, Lindy Waters had been really good for them this year and really important. So they're losing like 2 playable guys.
But if Kuminga can come back healthy, then those guys lose their rotational minutes and it doesn't matter anyways, kind of thing, right? And I guess that's the hope. Like you said earlier, we're talking all things even, everyone's healthy. Kuminga eats those minutes and they're not playing anyways. So it allows them to make that trade. It's kind of like what San Antonio did to acquire Fox. It seems like they upgraded and didn't have to give up really a lot to do it other than the extension for the 2 years to Butler.
I mean, I would counter that the Warriors actually gave up more than the Spurs did,
fine. Yes,
they
I'm not
gave
going to
up
argue.
rotation players.
I actually would not disagree with you, but what I do love,
I do think the Warriors are going to be firmly. I mean, I think they're going to be at worst like the 9 seed going into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they have home court for the play-in, so like 7 or 8 seed going in. Like I do think that they improved at the deadline in a way that I find very annoying.
What would you say to them ending as, let's say, 6 or 7 seed and finding themselves playing like Memphis or maybe a Houston, depending on how the season ends? I personally would have them favored in either one of those series in a first round. And then, NBA playoffs, anything can happen. Things get a little bit more interesting. Do you think they'd have that opportunity against either one of those teams? Do you see any other matchups that they could potentially get out of the first round with being the lower seed? What do you think?
No, I think you nailed it. The Grizzlies and Rockets would be the big ones that either of those teams. I mean, the Grizzlies just feel paper thin. I mean, even their moves at the deadline, they got rid of depth, like instead of adding depth. So I'm not real high on the Grizzlies prospects the rest of the year or in the playoffs. Like they've got good players, and in the playoffs, your depth is less important. You're going to tighten your rotation anyway. But ultimately, I just think that the Grizzlies could be beatable. And then same with the Rockets. I mean, the Rockets have a lot of good young pieces. I like what they're building there, but their guys with experience are on the tail end, and their guys without experience are the ones you would need to step up. Maybe they could. I mean, Udoka's a good coach. He knows how to coach playoffs. Like,
sure.
I would honestly probably give the Rockets a better chance than the Grizzlies, as crazy as that may seem, given that the Grizzlies have a lot more playoff experience. But I mean, either one of those, I could see the Warriors coming out ahead in the same way that they did against the Kings 2 years ago. The Kings were a higher seed, but they were young, they were inexperienced, and
you let them go to that game 7, and then everything changes. And then look what the Warriors did; they went on to win the finals. Which is what I think people are slightly underestimated if they still think there's not a possibility here, because look what Jimmy did with that Miami squad and what he's able to do.
Warriors didn't win it all that year.
Didn't they win it the year they beat Kings in 7?
No.
They lost to the Nuggets that year.
I thought them and the Kings played a 7-game series the year they beat Celtics.
I'll look it up.
They might. Maybe they did, and I'm just mixing up the years that those 7-game series went down.
It was 2022-23.
23.
That's the year they won the finals, isn't it?
Nuggets won the finals that year.
Yeah.
Oh, the 21-22 season.
The Warriors lost to the Lakers.
Oh, that's right. It was the Lakers they lost to. Yeah.
Warriors lost to the Lakers. Nuggets beat the Lakers.
Did the
Western
Warriors
Conference
beat
Finals.
the Kings in a 7-game series the year they won against the Celtics? I'm curious now.
No.
Kings have only been in the playoffs that 1 year.
Who'd they beat on that run?
You're talking about their last title?
The 21-22 season.
They beat hold on, I got it.
The way the NBA does that, I always confuse myself. 21-22, 22-23. Like
The years are so confusing.
yeah, man, they messed me up.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, what I'm trying to get at here is because of the runs they've been able to make and the veteran leadership they still have on that team, and Steph Curry namely, and the fact that Jimmy and Steph actually occupy different spaces on the court, and Jimmy truly brings in something that they lacked drastically, which was being able to get to the line when needed and kind of slow the game down at times. I think that come playoff time, if you can't double Steph and you actually have to guard him one-on-one because Jimmy's able to be playoff Jimmy, it can create a very exciting situation, potentially. I'm not projecting that to be the case just yet, but I'm saying I can see that being a situation where you could see some fireworks and it wouldn't surprise me.
So the Warriors beat the Nuggets
Grizzlies.
in round 1.
Okay.
And then they beat the Grizzlies in round 2.
Oh, never mind. Yep. I was thinking of the Grizzlies series. That's the one I was thinking about.
And then they beat the Mavericks in the finals.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about the Grizzlies series. I totally forgot that it was same chippy young kind of squad that almost had them, and then gave them a open door all of a sudden, and they ate you for it. But yeah,
teams with the Fast and the Furious, like, dude, I almost had you.
Yeah, and they had the Kings. I really after Game 6, I was like,
oh man,
ooh, I don't see how this ends for the Golden State Warriors, right? But
for real though, Greg, that I don't. You probably haven't seen it, but that Super Bowl commercial was the worst. There was
no idea what you're talking about.
No, there was a Fast and Furious ice cream commercial, and it was awful.
I thought all the commercials were awful, so I can't even remember which one you're talking about, and I watched all of them.
No, really, it has
ain't
Dom,
like it used to
Letty,
be.
and it has Luda in it, and they're all promoting Haagen-Dazs, and it's awful. It is terrible.
Fun.
Yeah.
So, Greg, what's the storyline for the remaining 28 games of the NBA season?
I mean, we've touched on several of them. I mean, in the East, it's going to be the Cavs and the Celtics, looking at how they kind of finish out the year, where they finish in the standings. The Cavaliers, especially with the roster moves they made, does that help them? Does that hurt them? You know, because sometimes there can be setbacks as you integrate new guys. What can the Knicks do in the playoffs? In the West, it's really, the Thunder, the Nuggets, some of the teams we've talked about. I mean, the Lakers probably aren't making a lot of noise. They don't have the depth. They don't have the pieces, but they do have LeBron and Luka. It'll be interesting. At the bottom of the West is going to be interesting with the Warriors kind of coming up. The Spurs may be coming up. Are the Suns going to play a little bit better, or did they kind of break their locker room with trying to shop Durant? I think we've hit most of the major storylines that are worth paying attention to. I mean, there's a bunch of nitty-gritty stuff in there for the sickos, but those are kind of the broad strokes that most fans are going to be watching.
Any other NBA questions for Greg?
Oh, plenty, but we're not.
We don't got all night.
I'm an L7 weenie when it comes to that, so I'm good. I got my satisfactory answers.
Greg and I can just do one of those late night podcasts, NBA late night.
Hey, you're gonna have to buy me a drink first.
After hours, I'm on it, buddy. I got you. I'll even throw in a little snack.
Sports nonsense and whiskey after dark. Is that what we're talking?
Deep dives, breaking down the Clippers bench.
Nice.
Are the Clippers
Norman Powell on the come up?
Are they a threat? They made a deal, didn't they?
No.
Did they make a deal?
No, they're not.
They're not.
Do you believe Kawhi Leonard's going to play all the games in the playoffs?
No.
Oh,
No.
Well, then, yeah,
Do you think James Harden is going to shoot better than 40% at any point this season? No.
Probably not. I had to ask.
Which is a shame because Zubats is an underrated center, but other than that.
God, you look across the NBA and look at what the Lakers could have been if they hadn't listened to LeBron James.
Oh, man.
I
will always be happy they traded him. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff we would go deep on.
6 degrees of LeBron getting rid of you.
Oh, man. All right, guys.
All right.
Well, I'm going to duck out and let you guys finish out the show.
Always
Thanks for
a pleasure,
having me on.
sir. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Love you, buddy. All right.
I just thought about something.
Don't hurt yourself.
Ooh.
Our headline is not accurate tonight.
No, it's gonna be titled guest host Greg Wissinger NBA Pro Talk. That's what it's about to be.
That's my fault. I asked, what's the headline? Nobody said shit, so I sent over draft seasons upon us. Like, that's all on me. Nobody else commented. I forgot to ask Greg until literally like 20 minutes before the show if he would come on. And he was like, well, I actually don't have anything to do tonight. So yeah. So that's all on me. I take
not
full
our super
responsibility.
producer. So give him a little grace. We apologize if you came in here thinking we're going to hear something different.
I just know I remembered late that I was supposed to ask Greg when he could come on. I didn't expect he would say I could come on tonight.
Yeah.
He was like, I am free tonight. And I was like, okay then.
So if you joined us tonight, you got a lot of NBA. Next week we'll start going heavy on draft season and the NFL.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left.
We can cover just a few quick little tips, but nothing like we normally would. So come back next week, please. If you stuck with us at all to see if we are going to talk draft, I promise you it's one of our favorite things to do every year. Come back and you'll get plenty of it starting next week.
So,
again,
I mean, you guys saw it. The Super Bowl ended, and I was literally like, hey, guys, it's draft season. It's draft season. There's so much content out there right now. And this is where I think the NFL does it better than any other sports league. There's so much content. Their season's over. We're sitting here going, Combine's coming up. Free agency's coming up. The draft's coming up. The season don't even start till September. That's where the NFL is really.
The way they've been able to prolong everything to basically make it a year-round schedule to keep fans engaged is, again, they are the kings within the sports world at that engagement.
The combine is an event, and I know we've talked about it quite a bit. We probably don't really even need the combine anymore. The combine was really important when we didn't have social media, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have all this stuff. You had your scouts going, you had your scouts on the road, and then you had game film, and that's really all you had. So yeah, the combine kind of mattered to get them in person and see how a quarterback throws the ball in person and you could meet them and interview them, and you could, you know, compare them against other guys. At this point, like, we've got Amazon AWS data on how fast these guys are. Like, we've got all this stuff. Like, the combine at this point is literally just a dog and pony show for TV. Like, I don't think the scouts get a whole. Besides the interviews.
I mean, let's be honest. It's called what it is. It's just another set of league meetings where everybody gets to get together and collude, for lack of a better way of saying it, without having to worry about any issues, because everybody's there and you get to talk and really kind of go behind closed doors and see what things are there and what's going on.
Before I let you jump in, Robert, I mean, we saw that in the Giants Hard Knocks, where the GM of the Giants literally was like, where is the Patriots? Where are they? I need to go talk to those guys. And he literally like went across the entire Lucas Oil Stadium to go have a conversation with the Colts GM, because he wanted to trade up to where the was it the Colts? No, it wasn't the Colts GM. The Patriots. It was the Patriots GM. He wanted to find out where the Patriots GM was.
Talking about two different teams.
Sorry. Yeah. I may have been drinking, Robert. Sorry.
Robert, what were you going to say?
So I was going to say, like, my biggest thing is, like, you know, with the combine and things becoming irrelevant, I mean, if we're going to talk about themes and things this evening, that was kind of one of the things we started off with, was the NBA All-Star Game. Well, the NBA All-Star Game is a fucking joke. The NFL All-Star Game is also a joke. Like, I'm sorry, I really could care less than watch grown-ass men play flag football. I would rather
there's
go.
ways they can change it. They just refuse to do it.
No, absolutely. But I'm sorry. Back in the day, even when didn't really give a crap about anything NFL, I enjoyed the Pro Bowl because it was seeing a bunch of different dudes from different teams play together, and it was still a football game. Full contact. Let's go. And it's honestly disappointing to watch. No one cares. Just like, most of the time, I think the only real game that somewhat matters in professional sports possibly is the NBA All-Star Weekend, or week at this point.
No, the MLB, baseball's All-Star Weekend, is by far the superior event in all major sports.
So, like, I mean,
but
it's
to
a joke.
Your point, while the combine might be worthless from the sense of evaluating talent, it will never go away because of two reasons, I believe. One, like I said, I think it's just another set of league meetings, and you can go in and do a bunch of things that you otherwise couldn't do in that time of the year, as far as conversations and things of that nature are had. And two, it does give you the ability to face-to-face interview and talk with these guys, where you don't necessarily get that type of environment in other situations. So because of those two factors, it's always going to be there. Whether or not we always see dudes like throwing, running, benching, shuttle times, and things of that nature, I don't know. But I don't see it ever going away because of those two primary things.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, at least with the NFL, NBA, there's so much money involved. Like, I wish they would play hard, but then on the other hand, I'm like, I understand, like, if you don't play hard because of the injury factor, football is a really tough sport.
I mean, the football players have an excuse. NBA doesn't, them guaranteed contracts, bro.
Right.
You make that money. You make that money when you sign. Like, you don't got to worry about it.
Yeah. And baseball, like, getting hurt in baseball is super rare. It happens, but it's super rare that it's like season ending. That's why they go harder, I think, in my opinion.
Well, the game also allows for it. There's no physical contact with each other. The worst case is, I mean, 9 times out of 10, the worst issue is getting hit by a pitch, right? Like, that's the thing you have to worry about the most. So outside of that, like, okay. So it allows for a better product because of just the game itself.
I mean, hockey for the most part goes all out.
Golf's all-star event is like the Ryder Cup. For those that don't know, that's basically an American team versus a European team. Okay. American golfers versus European golfers, they play a different set of events within a 3-day time period. You get points for who wins which match and things of that nature. Winner comes out, top dog, huge bragging rights, big cup, big event. Golf allows itself to be able to do that a little bit easier than other sports, though, when you talk about like USA versus the world kind of thing, because there's enough world players who are good to make it an event. NBA, I'm tired of hearing people say like the NBA should go to the USA versus the world. There's not enough good world players to make that worth it. It's not. We're not even close to that. It should be East versus West, like it always should. They should just give a shit and play. But the Pro Bowl, I never understood the game even when I was a kid. Like, yo, this is after the season's over and these dudes are still trying to play their hardest. And this could end their season for next year. And they don't get guaranteed contracts, which means they may never get paid again if they get hurt really bad. Like, the Pro Bowl never made sense to me. What they need to be doing is events. Let's go back to see who has the strongest arm with the hardest throw, most miles per hour, the farthest throw. Let's let guys truly run the 40 against each other. There are little things they could do to still make it fun for the fans to really see the talent level of these athletes. With that being said, with the NFL moving it up to the off weekend before the Super Bowl, it's basically become a non-existent event within the NFL's year-long calendar. So we don't even care about it, to the point where Pinky and I, dude, this is why I say you guys need to come back next week when we truly start talking about draft stuff. Pinky and I have been doing mock drafts since before the season ended, since before the Super Bowl. We've had our top 10 at each position. We're talking about the first round picks. We're talking about where guys should be traded to. And then we have to slow ourselves down because we're like, well, actually, we got to wait for free agency. And we need to know who signs where before we can say, well, you need to make this trade with the draft, or this is who you should be drafting, or this, blah, blah. So then Pinky and I have to start slowing ourselves down. So next week, we'll start talking free agency, draft, franchise tag, the Bengals. What are you doing with T. Higgins? There's a lot of stuff for us to start discussing. The NFL does not slow down.
It does not. Let me ask this question. With the draft, would you... Oh, God, there's so many things. QB carousel right this year is pretty crazy when you look at it. Would you take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders 1-2?
I mean, the show's already on the same page with this. If you haven't been listening to us, let me just tell you right now, everybody's going to say Shedeur. That's how we feel right now. We're not saying there's necessarily a huge gap, maybe. I think there probably is a bigger gap between the two than these guys think, and probably a lot of other specialists. And I don't think it's a huge gap, but to me, Shedeur's the clear-cut guy there.
What makes Shedeur clear-cut favorite over Cam Ward?
To me, I watched him stand tall in a pocket, deliver accurate balls. I have no issues with his arm strength whatsoever. And unlike most people, I feel like, I actually like the personality. And I think that personality goes a long way at that next level. Seemed to do his dad really well. And I think people are forgetting Shedeur is really talented. And I continue to say that had he been playing on a Georgia and Alabama, and Michigan and Ohio State instead of Colorado and followed his dad, because make no mistake, if he left Jackson State and didn't play with Daddy, all those top schools would have come calling for him. And he would have been playing at one of them. And he would have been in the playoffs this year. And he would have been playing big-time football. And people would be evaluating him very differently right now, in my opinion. And because of all of those things together, I do like Shedeur quite a bit, actually.
I mean, I'm a Miami guy, so I do like Cam Ward. I see weaknesses in both of their games that I don't think either one is clear-cut way above the other. I think both guys have talent. If you do things well, I think you can get a really good quarterback to play for you for 10 to 15 years. But the weaknesses in their game tell me if they're not in the right situation, they could fail.
Give me the 2 biggest weaknesses in your eyes for each guy. Or
For
just the biggest, however you want to say it. But for each guy, give me the weakness.
I mean, for Shedeur, it's holding on to the ball too long.
Okay.
Like, that's just like that. He did that on a regular basis. When you have a shitty O-line, you would think that you would get rid of the ball quicker. He did not.
He did not. He did
He
not.
did
So
not.
then what's Cam's weakness?
And for me, also on Shedeur, I always felt like he did not use his legs when he could have.
I was going to ask you about that, so hold that thought for just a moment. What's your weakness with Cam?
Cam has some decision-making issues. He does. There were too many, as a Miami fan, there were way too many games this year that they had to play from behind because of early mistakes. And he would make those early mistakes. Now, thankfully, he had the, that gene of, coming back and being a leader and still leading his team. He did that a lot this year, so there's something there. But, man, some of those mistakes were bad. They were bad.
So this is where I was going with this, and this is why I asked you to hold that thought with Shedeur and moving. I think both of their weaknesses are decision-making, but it's different types of decision-making. Cam's is, like you just said, basically thinking, for lack of a better way of saying it, thinking he's better than he is, thinking his arm's stronger than it is, or things of that nature, trying to make a throw that he shouldn't. Okay? Shedeur's decision-making is, I can still get something out of this. I can still make a play out of this. But it's not turning the ball over. It's putting you in bad spots because it's backing you up, but it's not turning the ball over. So in that sense, a lot of those he could kind of tuck and run, right? Get 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 yards instead of staying in the pocket, trying to wait, and then taking a sack. So in that sense, Pinky, which decision-making issue do you think is more easily correctable going forward in the NFL?
I mean, I kind of feel like Shedeur can correct his issues if he's protected. But that goes, I mean, if QBs are protected, they usually play pretty well, right? I mean, most of these guys are well enough that if they're protected, they play pretty good. I mean, to me, I don't think, for me, if you pick either guy, I feel like you still have a guy you can actually work with and actually be successful with, but I don't see a slam dunk with either one of them. I see guys that are going to need good coaching and a good O-line, which really goes for a lot of guys. I feel like there's only a handful of guys that come out. They can still succeed when they don't have the best protection. They don't have the best they don't have the best coaching, and they can still succeed. I don't feel like these guys are those guys. They are going to need a good situation.
Do you want to know what I think these guys' comps are? And I've kind of thought about this a lot, and we can kind of end here if you want for the night. I see Cam Ward as kind of a poor man's Deshaun Watson.
Oof.
When he was in Houston his first couple, 3-4 years. And I see Shedeur Sanders as, honestly, an even keel CJ Stroud.
I still think both of these guys could be successful. But I do think
absolutely.
I do think it'll be based on where they go. Like, to me, either one goes to Tennessee, not gonna work. Either one goes to Cleveland, not gonna work.
You don't think Kid could work there with Stefanski?
I just don't see it, man. I don't. That O-line is not as good as it used to be.
It's not.
Nick Chubb is a free agent. Like, they've got nothing at running back, at the moment. Nick Chubb's a free agent. They're probably not going to re-sign him. So there's just too many question marks there. To me, if I'm the Browns and the Titans, if I'm the Titans, I trade out of 1 if I can. If I can get a taker to trade, the Giants moving up from 3 to 1, perfect. I won't even charge you that much. To me, like the Titans and the Browns are perfect spots for Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. Unfortunately, they both need quarterbacks too. So it's like one of those things like the right thing for the team is not taking the quarterback and just putting another good player on the team and let's kick the can to 2026. I don't see Shador or Cam as sure things. I do think they could be successful. I think they could be really good quarterbacks. But when you draft them 1-2, like you're wanting that sure thing. You're needing that guy that's going to turn around your franchise. I don't know if those are the guys.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I still believe Shador, talent-wise, is just as good as any of the guys that went last year and went in the top of the draft. And believe, again, had he played at one of the top universities against that top competition and not at Colorado in the Big 12, he would have the numbers and we would be talking about him. People weren't talking about Jaden Daniels being Jaden Daniels until last year when he did his Heisman thing. He wasn't even in the conversation at the beginning of the year to be a number 1 pick. It was Caleb Williams and only Caleb Williams, and that's what people kept talking about. Beginning of this year, people blasted us for talking about Shador Sanders being better than Carson Beck and how foolish we were. Like, I'm going to keep maintaining, this is not me being a Colorado guy. I think we can pretty clearly say that. There is no gold-colored glasses coming from this man towards that situation. And I do love Dion, but I'm not going to sit here and say Shiloh Sanders is a first-round top 10 pick. So I feel like very objectively, I have had Shador as one of the top quarterbacks in the country for a couple years now. And that's not changed for me, regardless of what Colorado has done around him. And I think somebody is getting a franchise quarterback with him. I'm not as sold on Cam Ward, only because I do see some things with him where he does have a bit of a gunslinger mentality. And while he'll put up big numbers, he can also cost you some situations. Maybe he's like a Russ Wilson, where if you can keep him in a system where he's kind of harnessed, if you will, and he's not trying to carry the team, there's talent there to allow you to do that. But if you just take the reins off and think you're going to win with him being the dude, maybe that's where the problem would come in. I don't know. I have a hard time putting a comp on what his potential would be. And the reason I say a poor man's Deshaun Watson earlier, I was pretty high on Deshaun Watson. But the reason I call him that as the comp is because people kept trying to find ways to bring Deshaun Watson down, and he wasn't going to be that talented. And all of a sudden he comes in the league and he's playing at a arguably top 3 quarterback in the league level for a bad Houston team. So Cam Ward for me is a lot harder to figure out. I think his range of possibilities are a lot greater. I have a hard time seeing Shador Sanders fail unless the team around him just epically miserably fails. I don't think Shador fails because of Shador. I think he would end up failing because the organization failed him miserably.
Could agree with that. Robert, any thoughts on that?
No. Shador Sanders is like, I'm coming into this on the back end of things. I mean, from what I've seen, I think he is a stellar quarterback and a lot of franchises can benefit from him. Whether or not he's a franchise quarterback, I can't really say for certain. That bowl game really did not have me feeling any certain special way about him. I frankly feel like if you are a considerable draft pick, you should probably stand on your own 2 feet pretty well in a bowl game. That's just my opinion, especially if you're trying to figure out where you're going to be landing. But your father also has a hand on where you go too. So it's a really mixed bag of tricks, I think. It'll be a very interesting draft season, I think, for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And with where they pick, I feel like that'll be the storyline in the offseason until we really get to preseason. That's just my insight, just coming into this on now being here for a year, with what we've been talking about. I feel like it's just way too early to really determine personally if he's a franchise quarterback, because this year he did well, but on the end of it, there wasn't much fireworks there, and a lot of people will get turned off by that.
Pinky, give us your final thoughts for the week, sir.
I mean, my final thought is I am super excited. I took the day off tomorrow.
You are welcome for this. I better get some shit. Like,
I'm gonna go meet Bo Nix and get him to sign this in orange for me.
That'd be cool.
I am super stoked.
You are welcome.
Don't do orange. Don't. I know it'll look cool. Make sure it's in black. It lasts longer. It stays better. It looks cleaner over time.
No, I've got the orange liquid gel. It's awesome.
It does. Pinky, I'm just telling you from a collector's perspective, if you want to sell that ever in the future, anything, it doesn't matter, man. You got an opportunity here.
Look, I don't sell my memorabilia, bro. I gather it for myself. What my kids do with it at that point is up to them. But I get my memorabilia for me.
That's what I'm saying.
The memorabilia lasts forever.
Right.
Look out for Hermione, all right? Just look out for her.
Look, the liquid gel is much better than Sharpie. So, trust me, we're good.
All right. Robert, final thoughts, sir.
Final thoughts. I have Nosferatu finally, and I'm gonna watch the shit out of this. Pinky, I know you didn't like it.
Hold on. I didn't say
we don't
I
have
didn't like
time
it.
for you guys to get into this right now.
I said it was good, not
this is
amazing, like you said.
It's an amazing film from the history aspect of it, and from just loving the original Dracula story. It is perfect. And the cinematography and the costume design and everything for this movie, it far exceeded my expectations. And this brings back vampires for me personally. I'm over this bullshit fantasy crap. Give me some creepy ass vampire, scare me to death movies.
Okay. All right. Two things. The NBA gets serious now, so I'm stoked. And dude, Pinky, I mean, come on. How much do we love this time of season when we start getting to go all the what if craziness on drafts and free agency and everything else that we're about to kick off.
Well,
so
Caleb,
fun.
What's great about draft season?
Anything can happen.
Everybody's hope.
It's all about hope. Look, going to the draft, which I hope we get to take you someday, Caleb.
One day we will.
One day.
We will.
There's no animosity between fans at all. It's all love. It's all hope. It's all excitement. It's just a fun time. You go to Super Bowl week and you're wearing, if you're wearing an Eagles jersey and you're a Chiefs fan, there's animosity.
Right.
At the draft, there's none of that. You can wear whatever jersey. In fact, my Caleb, Pinky Jr., laughs at me. When I'm at the draft, I'm literally like, go Lions, go Bengals. I'll dap anybody up and say, go whatever team they're wearing, because that's they're representing their team. That's cool.
Facts. On that note, we always end the show the same way every week. I'm going to caveat it with a slight PSA to really drive it home. I lost a buddy this week who felt that for whatever reason the world didn't need him anymore, and he was a good dude. And a lot of people are going to miss him, and his family and his daughter are going to miss him. And the choice he made was unnecessary. He just didn't know it for whatever reason. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, if you're hurting, reach out to somebody. I know that's not how it works.
You matter.
But that's why we're so serious with the way we end the show every week. When you have those opportunities to spend with those loved ones, your family, your friends, do not take those moments for granted. Cherish them, because you don't know what that means to somebody else at that given time. And you also don't know what memories may be the last.
Absolutely.
So, you know, Pinky talks about checking in on people, and I'm not going to tell you not to, because you should. And it goes a long way. But I'm not going to sit here and say people are always going to tell you if they need you to check in on them. Or even if you do check in, tell you that they're not doing well and they need it. So just cherish those people and those moments at every opportunity you get. To everyone that supports us in any way, we cannot thank you enough. Fellas, until next week, appreciate you the most. We're out.
Good night.
Peace. Cheers.